buy those properties, have heavy mortgages, they're starting to spike right now. There will be another wave of foreclosures. Go ahead.
Don't recessions also correspond to delinquencies, late payments, or?
Well, okay, but it just means a lot of people are losing homes, and our occupancy went up, okay? Now, you're gonna deal with that anyway, so there's certain targeted areas we invest in, so we'll get to that also today, okay? Emerging markets and how to protect yourself a little bit on that, but that's just part of being a landlord, okay? So we'll get into this heavily here today. By the way, the economy, I could really care less. Foreclosures will happen, a big influx of renters, a lot of things happen. Investors, over the last 3 years, they've been searching for places to put their money. The stock market, it was like every week something different. Up, down, sideways, we're crashed, we're back. Crypto hadn't been where it's at, even though it's making a big comeback right now. And then single family homes, even duplexes and even fourplexes, anything that's based on comps, if the market crashes, the pricing is gonna crash. They are searching for safe places to put their money. If you were to Google larger multifamily investing, it basically confirms it's almost recession-proof. You own a commodity, there will always be renters. This is where big money puts their money. You do realize that. It's definitely gone up over the last 3+ years. Has rent gone up with inflation? Yes or no? 20% is the nationwide average. When rent increases 20%, just a little over 3 years, do you realize how much value that is forcing into those properties? When I show you how we gauge the value of one of these larger properties, it's all based on cash flow and performance. When you raise the rent 20%, on the back end, you're forcing that property to go up in value like nothing else. So once again, people ask recession, not recession, honest answer is I could care less. How many of you in this room would love to give the metaphorical middle finger to the US economy? Can I see by the show of hands? It's exactly what multifamily investing allows you to do. If we hit that recession, when we hit that recession, whatever, pricing will get better, cap rates will go up, more availability, foreclosures will spike, big influx of renters, that's your customer. By the way, there's a ton of commercial loans coming due this year on a 5-year arm. Nobody's done any research on that. We're getting great deal flow because of that alone, because people can't pay. They banked 5 years ago that rates would be lower and they could refinance right now, and what's happened?
Can't refinance.
You can't refinance right now. So this time period right now, let me just word it this way. So I said all this at the beginning. It couldn't be better than what's happening right now. This is like the perfect wave, the perfect storm building right now. And then also today, we're gonna cover continuing education and taking multifamily investing to a whole different level, our level. Here's the reality. I have 90 minutes here today to cover a ton of content. Our company trains and focuses heavily on 6 steps. Those 6 steps. We train on these 6 steps because those are the steps we take when we invest in these larger properties. But the reality is this. There's not one human being on planet Earth in 90 minutes on a Tuesday that can teach you everything you know how to make money with these larger properties. That'd be impossible. What you're truly attending here today is just an introduction. That's it. Of our company, Tyler Devereaux, our strategies, what we do in the market, but more importantly, it is an introduction of something we have that is much bigger to come. In fact, point blank question. How many of you came here today actually wanting to learn how to invest in larger multifamily properties? Can I see by the show of hands? Okay. This is something bigger to come. I'd like everybody to write down in their notes. It's why Tyler invited me today. It's why I'm here today. It's why my associates are today. This is something bigger to come. Write this in your notes. Is a multifamily training / networking event that Tyler and Multifamily Mindset will be holding here in the Valley. I'll give you the location in a second. The dates are up here on the screen. Write these dates down if you would real quick. This event Tyler's hosting is January 16th, 17th, and 18th. That's a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Each day of this event begins at 8:30 a.m. and gets done at 6 p.m. And they are 3 completely separate days. Training, networking, investing in one thing, multifamily properties, and those 6 steps. The ultimate goal for our company coming out of that event with our students is to actually invest in these larger properties, sponsor deals, partner with you on deals on the GP side. It's why we're in this room here today. Now, whenever I bring up dates, inevitably, I'll always have someone say, Steve, Tyler couldn't have picked worst 3 days. I'm out of town, vacation, whatnot. If that is the case, don't worry about that. This is SoCal. I'm from here. There's plenty of other options. We'll get into this here today. But also, let me cover this. because it's always the elephant in the room. I'm gonna read your mind. I'm a really good mind reader. I've been doing this for 25 plus years. You got invited here today by Tyler Devereaux, via social media in some way, shape, or form. Yes? Something intrigued you about multifamily investing. It's the hottest business on the planet, and his energy is incredible. So you came down here today. As you were coming down here today, here's what was going through your head. Let me see if I can get this one right. Okay, I wonder what they're gonna try to sell us today. How many of you walked through that door here today thinking we're here trying to sell you something? Can I see by the show of hands? Okay, one reason only, and that's to make money with large multifamily properties. We have around 7,000 active doors currently right now. We have students of ours who attend a class just like you're sitting in right now that now have bigger door counts and portfolios than we have. We're in this room for a purpose and a reason. But Tyler truly believes that some of you are in this room for the exact same reason. Tyler is a big believer in here today, but I have to throw this out there right up front. There is an investment to attend that event. Have access to the in-depth training, the sponsorship on your properties, on the GP side, partnership, and what we actually do in the market. But I'm gonna do something totally different right now. I'm literally gonna fly by the seat of my pants right here. If you've ever attended any type of class like this in your past, there's always an investment for whatever they have going on. When does the instructor typically do that investment? At the beginning of the class or at the end of the class? It's always at the end. Here's why. They want you all emotional and bought in. And at the very end, they're gonna show you their investment, but then here's what they do at the very end. It's real tricky. They take that investment at the very end, and what do they start doing with it? Start bringing it down, cutting in half, saying stupid things like today and today only, it's gonna be half price. And everybody gets really emotional about it. And let me let you know a tip right now. You do realize that investment, whatever it is, it's always half price. It's a sales gimmick we find cheesy and offensive. So here's what I'm gonna do today, something completely refreshing. Here in about 5 to 10 minutes, I just wanna make sure everybody gets settled in. I'll share with you Tyler's investments in that event. Have access to the full training, sponsorship, networking, everything we do in the actual market. And when I show you that here in a few minutes, it's gonna stay the same. We don't believe in cheesy games. What we believe in, above anything else, is that win-win philosophy. Success breeds success, and I'll prove that here today. I'm gonna do this a little different today, just one reason, in my backyard. How many of you in this room can appreciate we're just willing to be right up front and not play games? Can I see by the show of hands? Okay, I'm in the right room, give me 5 to 10 minutes. So in the meantime, I have to figure out how far you've taken this. I didn't have any investors in the room, I had a lot of beginners. So how many of you in this room have at least done some research or looked into investing in the multifamily properties? Can I see by the show of hands? Most of you, I love that. What are some of the obstacles that might prevent you from investing in these larger properties? Give me some ideas, don't be shy, just write it out. Money, I couldn't even get it out. Money and capital. If this were family, I'll kind of, you have a whole list. Here we go. Here we go. By the way, money and capital. Let me just throw it this way. If this were Family Feud, that is by far and away the top answer. It will take a lot of money. It will take a lot of capital. So I will cover that one first today, right out of the gates. The underwriting, the process of what we look for. You had a huge list there. There's a lot involved there. Anything else that might stop you? Connections. This is a huge relationship-based business. So time, it will take time. The best thing about multifamily is you have partners. It's not like single-family home. You don't go this alone. I'll cover that. This is a great start. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start with that top answer. It is the big one. And then I will literally go through a whole bunch of other ones I usually get, but we have to start with that top one, which is money, capital, credit, financing. It will take a lot of money. It will take a lot of capital. Here's the good news. We have a huge portfolio. We never, ever use our own money. It's never based on our income, our credit, period. There's 2 sources we're gonna go to raise money to buy these large properties. I'd like you to write these 2 sources down. Let's cover the money right up front and get all the numbers out in the open. The first source we're gonna go to raise money to buy these large properties is number 1, write down private investors. For those who know the lingo, this is the LP side. Limited partners or syndication. Now, private investors are just individuals like yourselves who have money, and they're looking to invest that money specifically, passively, in the multifamily space. Now, here's what we want to raise from the LP private investor side. Write this down. We want to raise 30 to 35% of the purchase price of that property from the LP side. Here's what that 30 to 35% is going to cover. It's going to cover the down payment on the property for you, the closing costs on the property for you, nothing comes out of your pocket, and some other fees. And I'll get deep into what those other fees are here today. So let me just word it this way. Let's say we need $10 million to buy a small apartment complex. 3 to 3.5 million. We're going to raise on the LP private investor side. Now, private investors are wanting to invest their money in properties like these for a multitude of reasons. The safety, the security, there will always be renters, but most importantly, they want to invest in properties like these because they're looking for good return on what? On their money. In fact, let me just word it this way. Money wants to make what? Money. So here's what we pay out on a typical deal. Write this down. We pay out 8% annual rate of return, preferred, meaning they get paid first. Obviously from the rents, it's broken down into 2% per quarter we pay out. But also what our private investors get is they're going to get nice big ownership in that property, which allows them to participate in a couple things. Number one, the depreciation on that property, meaning they can write off a bunch off on their taxes. And number two, more importantly, they can then participate in the equity growth as we force that property to go up in value. Now, we do things a little bit differently than a lot of multifamily investors. We are not typically into our properties for long-term cash flow. If you want long-term cash flow, we can definitely teach you long-term cash flow. Here's what we're doing right now in the current market. We're getting into the property. We're basically forcing that property to go up in value as much as we can. We're cashing out of that property, a long-term investor, and we're 1031 exchange our money to another deal, 3 other deals, repeat, so forth and so on. So here's the typical time period we're actually holding on these properties. Write this down. We're typically holding our properties anywhere from 2 to 5 years. And the whole goal in that 2 to 5 year time period is for us to force that property to go up in value as much as we can. And I will go over a detailed account today on how we do that. At that event, Tyler Devereaux will take that to a whole different level. Now, our private investors absolutely love this concept for a couple reasons. Number one, they're going to make 8% preferred on their money every single year in that deal. But what they really love about this concept is we're not telling them in 10, 15, 20 years, when we eventually sell that property, we're going to cash out equity growth on their money. We're telling them 2 to 5 years. And we're going to force the equity, force the growth. Now, here's why else our private investors absolutely love us. We have 2 very large investment funds, syndication funds. We buy properties with all across this country, Aloha 1 and Aloha 2. These 2 large investment funds over the last few years on that back-end cash out to our investors have averaged over 38% return on our investors' money. By the way, is that good rate of return, yes or no? Yes. Incredible. So they're gonna make their 8% per year. That's coming in every single year in that deal. But in a 2 to 5 year time when we force that equity high enough and cash them out, at that point in time, they're averaging over a 38% windfall cash out on their money. They can either take and roll into another one of our properties. They can put a long-term cash flow of their own. They can do that money whatever they want. Let me make this really easy. If you take the 8% per year, you take the over 38% cash out in 2 to 5 years, you put those 2 numbers together, they're typically averaging anywhere from 18 to 21% a year on average on their money. So if we need $10 million, a third of that, we're gonna raise on the LP side, private investors. Syndication, this is what we pay out, this is what we average, but that still leaves a ton of money left. We have to come up and buy that property. That's a third. That's the down payment, the closing costs, and some other small fees. So where would we go? I'll come right back to you. Where would we go to get the next portion of money we need, the bulk of it, the $7 million? Give me some ideas.
Debts.
Debts? Meaning banks. Okay, here, well, that will be more on the LP side. We'll come back to that also. Let's talk about banks. You had a question.
Yeah, so the 8% annual return, are you guys achieving that in the first year or after you guys force the value?
Every year they're getting that regardless of whatever. So if they invest 100 grand, they're gonna get 8 grand a year return, immediate. Okay, that's 2% per quarter, broken down. The forced appreciation is when that 18 to 21, if you average it all out, would be coming what they're basically got per year. Because they're gonna get a nice big cash out at the end.
Right.
So putting that together. So let's talk about banks, and I'll kind of really clarify this a little bit more. Banks is where we will go to get the next part of the money. Now, I'm sure some of you are gonna stop me right then and say, hold on, you said this had nothing to do with my income or my credit, and now you're bringing up banks. And they're all about that. Well, you're thinking traditionally, so let's just cover this right now. If you've ever bought a property in your past, whether it's the home you live in or an investment property, traditionally, you're gonna go out to the bank to try to secure some money and financing to buy that property. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay, right off the bat. The down payment closing costs on that property, who typically has to come up with that money?
That's you.
You do, the buyer. The minimum down payment for an investment property, unless you're gonna live in it, the minimum down payment is 15% down. You're more likely 20 to 30% down if you want a better rate. But when you go down to that bank, they're gonna get a ton of info from you, and here's that. They will have you fill out a loan application. And in that loan application, here's just some of the info they're gonna get. They're gonna get your social security number, they have to pull your credit, you have to be a certain score. They're gonna things like your debts compared to your income. They're gonna see some employment history, and they will wanna see some tax returns over the last little while. But there's a big catch-22 on that one. Here's the big catch-22, right there. Do I have anybody in the room who's currently self-employed? Can I see by a show of hands? Pretty much half the room. There's a lot of benefits to being self-employed, some great tax benefits, but here's the catch-22. You might be writing off a little bit too much on your taxes to actually qualify for the loan amount you need to buy that property and finally it all. It's a big game you play right here. These are what's called recourse loans, meaning you, your money, your income, your credit, everything about you qualifies for that loan to buy that property. With large multifamily properties, it is completely different. This is why I said we're gonna focus on 40 units and above. They're what's considered a non-recourse loan, meaning the bank is gonna be looking at your income. They're gonna be pulling or looking at your credit. What is the bank specifically going to be looking at? How do they figure out that value? Rents are, okay, let's just cut to the chase. Here we go. Good job. John, it is the cash flow. It's the performance. The value. Okay, but the value is based on the cash flow and the performance. So we're gonna get this heavily here today. It is the cash flow and the performance on the property the bank specifically will be looking at. But hold on. I have to take a step back, okay? The bank will still want to know some things about you as an individual. Why did you give you all this money to invest? This is a lot of money they're entrusting you with, yes or no? Yes. Tens of millions of dollars. So even though they're looking at the cash flow and the performance, that's the big thing, they're still going to ask some questions about who they're giving the money to and who they're investing with. And they're big questions. The first thing the bank will want to know about you, whether it's give you all this money to invest, is number one, they want to know what is your net worth. So they're going to have you fill out something called a PFS. And all that stands for is a personal financial statement. Here's the kicker. Your net worth has to be equal to or greater than the loan amount you're going after. So if you need $7 million, that means your net worth has to be at least $7 million. That's the first thing, probably the easier two things. The second thing the bank wants to know about you, whether it's give you all this money to invest, is they want to know how experienced are you when it comes to investing these larger properties. So they're going to have you fill out something called an SREO. All that stands for is a schedule of real estate owners. It lets them know how many doors you have, how many units, your experience and portfolio. So you take these two things. Number one, you have to have net worth. Number two, you have to have a portfolio and experience. This literally takes beginning investors like yourselves, pretty much everybody in this room. No matter how great that property is, no matter how well it's cash flowing and performing, it is typically going to boot you out of that opportunity before you have a chance to play this game. So there has to be a solution to get that money to buy that property. There's a solution. The solution is this. We basically need to partner with somebody that will help us secure that money from the bank. Does anybody know what we call that individual?
Angel investor.
Okay, it's partly, okay. It's a partner of yours on the GP side. So it is an actual partner of yours. It is a cosigner or guarantor per se, but the official term, write this in your notes, is called a sponsor. That is the official term. Of somebody who comes in and basically partners with you, secures the money from the bank with their SRE, their net worth, so you can buy that property. So now let's talk about sponsors. Why they're doing this, what they want out of this, what their responsibilities are. First of all, the sponsor typically puts up the earnest money on the property. That's not a big deal though. They get that back at closing, it's in there real quick. The big thing the sponsor wants for doing this is what?
Return.
How would they get that return?
Through rent.
Through rents, but how would they collect rents? What do they really want?
Fees.
They want ownership. They want to be a partner. They want equity in this property. They want ownership. Okay, they're putting their neck on the line. So write this in your notes. A typical sponsor is going to take anywhere from 5 to 10% ownership into that property for partnering with you and securing that money. And I'll go over whole ownership breakdown today. There's plenty of meat on this bone. You want to keep this in mind right now. Your typical ownership for finding the property and putting the whole deal together, anywhere from 20 to 25% at the beginning. The sponsor gets 5 to 10%, and the rest of the ownership goes the LP side, the private investors, for putting up the upfront money to begin with. And I'll break this, plenty of meat on this bone. These are big properties. And the 5 to 10% fluctuates on how involved they are. If they're gonna come in and help you heavily with all their expertise from the very beginning, that'll take more like 10%. If all they're doing is securing the financing, that's it, more like 5%. So I always have people say, Steve, why would a sponsor be willing to come in and partner with me, basically put their neck on the line to the bank? Why are they doing this? What's in it for them? What's in it for them? 5 to 10% ownership in an already performing property. Let me just word it this way. They're not coming in and putting their own money into the deal. All they're doing is securing that financing, and for doing that, they're a nice piece of that pie. For them, it is a great passive way to invest. Yes or no? Incredible. So then people are like, okay, I grasp that. Here's my next question then. Where would I find one of these mythical sponsors? Any ideas? Where? Depends on if they have that net worth or one. You go to LinkedIn, you go to social media platforms, they're out there. Okay, if they want to sponsor deals. Let me just throw this out there, because I really hope most of you guess this anyway. Do you think it might be possible that maybe we, a multifamily mindset, would love to sponsor some of your deals, yes or no?
Oh, yeah.
It was one of the main reasons Tyler invited you here today. It is the main reason. He himself is training that event, okay, on the 16th, 17th, 18th. It is the main reason we put all this together. We would love to come in and sponsor, partner with you on deals, and basically carve 5 to 10%, in fact, let me just be blunt, 10% ownership into a lot of your properties. So now, that being said, let me backtrack a little bit. Please don't come to that event, look at Tyler and say, hey, Steve said he's going to sponsor every one of my deals, every one of my properties. We sponsor a high percentage of our students' deals. We want to sponsor as many as we possibly can. We are carving ownership in those properties. The main reason we can't sponsor every one of our students' deals, we have so much deal flow coming to us from our students right now. Tyler only takes deal flow from his students that we don't even have the bandwidth the banks need to cover everybody's deals. But here's the good news. If we don't sponsor your deal, that's okay. We're going to be introducing you to sponsors. I've said this twice already. This is a big relationship-based business. Now, we'll do the introductions. We want first right at it. That's why we're here, okay? But if we can't, we'll do introductions. It is still up to you to present them your property and create that relationship. And I only say that for one reason. Do you think sponsors sponsor more the deal or the relationship? They're both important. Relationships are everything. Okay. We sponsor a high percentage of our students' deals. That's why we're here. If it's a great relationship, we will continue to sponsor as many as we can. If it's a tough relationship, it's a one and done thing. The ultimate goal for us, starting right here, right now, is to train you, educate you, network, basically sponsor a few of your properties, carve that ownership. We're right up front about this. You're the main owner. While we're doing that, you're building SRE, you're building net worth. Really quickly in the process, you won't even need us. You'll have everything the bank needs. You won't need a sponsor. You'll keep that ownership. That's big. And at that point in time, if you really choose, here's what we can do then. We could then take you forward. We have many students who sat in class just like you're sitting in right now that now sponsor other students' deals. It is a beautiful relationship-based business. So I bring all this up from the very beginning. Money will be needed, okay? It's a lot of money. The best news, it's never based on your income. It's never based on your credit. You don't have to bring a bunch of money to the table. I will still have people at the end come up to me and say, well, how much of my money do I have to bring to the deal? You don't have to bring any if you don't want to. You can, if you bring money to the deal for tax reasons or whatever, all we'll do is syndicate less. You'll keep more ownership at the start, but you don't have to. So how many of you relieved to know in the first couple minutes that your personal income and personal credit are basically irrelevant when it comes to investing in these larger properties? Can I see by the show of hands? It's a big thing, okay? Money will be needed, don't get me wrong. This is the first thing Tyler will train on. This is how we set up every one of our deals. Basically, your job is for us to train you how to find these properties, vet them. Basically, you'll get access to, we have a whole underwriting department. Bottom line is, we would love to sponsor deals, partner with you on deals, that's why we're here. But that's the first thing I always get. Now let's go through a whole bunch of other answers I get that might stop people. Another one I get quite frequently is a lot of people say, Steve, I don't know if I want to be a landlord. Well, guess what? Neither do we. We are not in the landlord business, as crazy as that might sound. We use property management on every single one of our properties. In fact, we use two very large property management companies, and we use two, and here's why. We want them competing against each other at all times, keeping pricing very low and keeping our performance very high. We will be introducing you to property management companies all over the country, wherever you invest. Use whoever you'd like. We'll just show you where to battle for that business, get that pricing down. My point is this: you are not in the landlord business, as crazy as that might sound, okay? Another thing I get a lot of is, okay, what's even a good deal? And what are the numbers I'm looking for? Where should I be investing? Cap rates, cash on cash, all that good stuff. I'm gonna cover a bunch of this here today. And in fact, those are big sections Tyler trains on. But you know what we found out? It is not the money that stops most people investing in larger properties. It's not how to find them or anything like that. You know what really stops most people investing in these larger properties? That mindset. Or fear. Fear is a big one. One of the first answers I always get is fear. Fear really just comes down to one thing, and that one thing is called lack of what? Knowledge, experience, confidence. That's why we partner with students on deals. Okay, so these are big things we talked about. The bottom line is, Tyler's gonna break it down a step-by-step process. We do this day in and day out. So I will cover markets. I'll give an example. We have people leave our events, and they come across amazing properties with every number one that's we hit. They will take that property, and they will analyze and analyze and analyze until they are flat out paralyzed. Does that make sense? So, bottom line is, it's still real estate, it's still an action-based business. It's basically a mindset. It's why Tyler calls the company Multifamily Mindset, okay? So, we'll get into the numbers. He covers a lot of this, but I'll cover some of it today. Another thing I heard up here is, well, okay, how much time will this take? I'm a pretty busy individual. I own a business. I have a career. I have a 9 to 5. Okay, most of our students start off with businesses, careers, 9 to 5s. But I cannot look you in the eye and tell you this will not take time. Anything of worth or value takes time. Now the good news, whatever time you put into it, you're putting your own portfolio on the hottest business on the planet. There will always be renters. And number two, as I explained earlier, in multifamily you have partners. It's not like single family homes. You don't put this alone, you don't have to wear all the hats yourself. The GP side is partners, but time will be involved. And what tells you different is lying, and most of our students start like you, business careers and advice. And then the last thing I get a ton of is, Steve, I don't know if I can afford to be trained. Well, there's take 3 days of my life, or even financially. I'll throw that back to you. You can't afford not to know what you're doing. I would love to tell all of you, just go to YouTube and watch videos on multifamily investing, or Google it. The odds of your success are slim to none. We highly encourage you to get trained in this business. It's amazing, and then attack the business. So let's talk about the business. This is who invited you here today. This is Tyler Devereaux, the main owner, co-founder of Multifamily Mindset. Portfolio-wise, I've been doing this a long time. That number right there is actually about 7,000 right now, but that number changes constantly. And it's constantly changing, and here's why. We're into our properties 2 to 5 years. We might be cashing out of 1 or 2 large properties and acquiring 3 or 4 more. There's closings all the time. This number right here is well over a double that, $500 million we control. Multiple U.S. markets we invest in, but we do not invest where he lives. He lives full-time in Maui. We don't invest in Hawaii. because obvious reasons, the pricing and the cap rates. But let me ask this, do you have to live where you invest, yes or no? No. This is a numbers-based business, we don't. Here's what we look for. When we invest into a market, biggest thing is, wherever we invest, we just want to make sure that area will experience what? Growth. In fact, he will do a whole training just on this alone. Let me have you write down the terminology of what they're called. In your notes, write down emerging markets, right there. Emerging markets. An emerging market is just a state or a market to where more people are moving in than moving out. And projections are continuing that way. So let's just have some fun. What would you consider an emerging market in a state where more people are moving in than moving out?
North Carolina.
No, those are two of our best markets, by the way. Okay, here we go. Florida and Texas are number one and number two. So Florida and Texas, number one and number two. We invest heavily in both those markets. Our two best markets over the last few years have been both North and South Carolina. They've been absolutely incredible for us. So let me just go over our list. By the way, we will sponsor deals anywhere, okay? But here's our list, okay? There's insurance, but we'll do this, okay? So bottom line is this. Florida, Texas, both Carolinas, Tennessee, Georgia. By the way, two brand new emerging markets popping off right now with great growth in cap rates. Arkansas and Oklahoma. They're like Texas 7 to 10 years ago. And if we come West Coast, Arizona is still in our top 10. Now those are markets we target hard and heavy. We'll sponsor deals anywhere. And by the way, there's always other markets. We should invest in two very large properties outside of Kansas City, Missouri. So there's always other markets. But now let's go to the flip side. What would you consider a non-emerging market in a state or market where more people are moving out than moving in? I grew up inland, Riverside, right here, okay? I know this market very well. It is number one. Now that being said, am I saying there's nowhere here that's good to invest? Absolutely not. There are pockets everywhere. The further inland you go, the better those pockets get. He will be identifying pockets, but California is number one. New York is number two, and then the whole Northeast just follows that. New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, the middle of the country, Illinois, we stay completely away from. And it's not just are more people moving out than moving in. There's many other factors in play. As investors, we want the path of least resistance, meaning some of those non-emerging markets have laws that hinder us as investors, like rent control. You're familiar with rent control, yes or no? Yeah. We can't even give it up to the market average, okay? Or we want to make sure something crazy happens in the world you never expect, like a pandemic. Life continues. Who are they protecting? The squatters, the investors? These are all things, okay? So here's what Tyler will do. He will start local. We know this market very well, okay? There are pockets everywhere. So if you just want to stick to SoCal or even venturing out, we'll show you pockets. But if you are open to it, we can show you some markets right now across this country with incredible growth in cap rates. You don't have to live where you invest. We don't, okay? It's a big section I'll get into. So getting back to Tyler. He loves to give back, no formal education. His education to this date is a high school diploma. And I only bring that up for one reason. Getting a college degree in today's world, is that guaranteeing you success, yes or no? No. Most people don't even work in the field they got their degree in anyway. You realize that, yes? It's all about your niche, whatever your niche is. Our niche and our students' niche is right there. Double those numbers, okay? It's all we do every day in the market. And then also, changing thousands of lives through education, that 3-day event. When I say changing lives, Tyler now has students of his sat in the class, just like you're sitting there right now, that now have bigger door counts and portfolios than we have. He'll say this over and over again, think bigger. And then also a leader in mindset. First thing he'll do, he'll start off with a mindset training you have to have as the investor coming to these larger properties, just the numbers we deal with, that mindset does. It's truly the difference maker. So this is our company. This is what we do. But I promise you we get to this point. I said, give me 5 to 10 minutes. I bet somewhere like 15 to 20. I get going, okay? There is an investment Tyler has to attend this event. Have access to training, sponsorship, partnership, what we do in the market. I told you I'd do this up front, so I'd like you to write this in your notes if you would real quick. And by the way, the ultimate goal is for us to do deals. That's why we're here. So let me write this down. It is a one-time investment. You have access to 3 days of multifamily training. Our sponsorship, strategies, partnership, everything we do, that one-time investment, write this down, $1,000 $497. Put that in your notes. Next to that investment, I'd like you to write down the number 2, and here's why. That is included for you and one additional investment partner. Investment partner, business partner, somebody you plan on investing with. Most people do this as a partnership. We highly encourage that. You don't have to. We encourage that. Here's our biggest thing on that partner. Has to be somebody you know and trust. They're going to receive from us everything you receive. Split it, go together. Now that's the investment. It's not going to change. We have some options. We have some huge incentives, but it's not going to change. But I have one quick question I absolutely love to ask. And there's not a wrong answer to this question. So everybody, please respond. That investment up there on the screen, $1,500, let's just call it the way it is. To attend 3 days of multifamily training, have access to all of our strategies, our sponsorship on your deals, GP partnership, what we actually do in the market. Is that investment a lot of money, yes or no?
Split it up on PayPal.
We'll work with you, okay? Bottom line is this, did everybody get a chance? I truly want to know. I was very sincere in asking that question. There's not a wrong answer to that question. That's your answer. And I can't give you that answer. Most of you, when I first asked that, said no or went like this. Some of you said yes or thought yes and went like this. And a lot of you literally just stared at me and kind of went like this. And that's okay also. Okay? Most of you said no or went like this. And all that tells me is you're looking at this through the eyes of an investor. Let me explain. I have been teaching classes like this for almost 25 years in this country with some really big hitters in this game. Grant Cardone for 2 years, on stage with them countless times in front of countless people.